Good evening, everyone. Just seeing one person still connecting, so I'll give another second for that. All right, well, it looks like it's actually going to take Julia a little bit longer to connect than I had expected, so I'll just dive in. Everyone can hear me okay? Or do you just see my mouth moving and no sound coming out? Okay, good. I was worried I wasn't getting any response. I didn't know if I was making any sound for you or not. Okay, very good. Um, so I have two things that I want to get to tonight. That probably won't take very long, but we'll see. So the first is um, I want the role of the final paper in the course overall to make sense to you. So I'm just going to talk. I said something about this last class, so I'm repeating myself a little bit, but I just want to talk for a moment about the overall design of the course and how this paper winds up being the culmination of the course. So, and then the second thing is I want to talk a little bit about your final paper. And in particular, I want to answer any questions that you have about it so that when it comes time to send it in, you will be completely clear on what you need to do and what the paper should look like, um, and just be left without any questions at all. Um, all right, so first of all, the course. The the way that I wanted this course to go is I wanted you to wind up writing a paper that is based on your own research, your own first person primary research, so that you're not exactly getting a taste of what it is to do anthropological research, because the time is too short for that, and the nature of the assignment is not really participant observation in the way that we conventionally think of it, but it gives you some kind of a taste of what it is to go and find out how the world looks through the eyes of someone else, gather the information that you need to give a good account of how it looks, and and then write that up, put it in a paper that is your own work. So you're not just commenting on other people's essays, other people's books, other people's chapters, or anything like that. You're producing your own primary work. That's where I wanted to wind up. And so you can think of the way that I designed the course as going backward from there. So in order to get to that, of course, you have to be able to do interviews. So that's why I wanted you to do the interviews ahead of time, send in the reports, which by the way, I'm grading. And so far they've been very, very good. I'm really encouraged by that. And and have a sense of how to go about doing an interview. So that's why we had those sections. But then in order to do the interview, you have to have some idea what it is that you're interviewing this person about, and what kind of information this person can give you that will help you out with your project. So you have to have a sense of what your project is. Of course, that's why you had the proposal, where you had to think up, what question do I want answered, and who is in a position to help me figure out the answer to that research question. Okay, so that gives you sort of the second half of the course with all the preparatory work to do the final project. But the thing is, every kind of writing that we do, every kind of argument that we make, it's always based on concepts. We're always using concepts in order to talk about the things that we want to talk about. So that's what the first chunk of the course was about then, was just to supply you with some kind of foundational anthropological concepts so that as you go into your final project, you're already armed with some of those concepts. You know a little bit about how anthropologists think about the kinds of things that you're going to investigate, and the sort of discussion that you're going to be entering into with other anthropologists who have already done some kind of work in a field related to what you're researching. So that was how I built the course anyway. And that's why I hope you can see the final paper has this place of giving you this opportunity to write about your own research. Okay, so now that gets us to the final paper. So now let me just go through this. I don't have a lot here, but I've got, I put together something quick just to sort of walk you through one last time the kind of thing that I'm looking for in the paper. This is directly from the syllabus, right? So it describes the final paper as 700 to 900 words. That's roughly 2 to 3 pages. Of course, if you want to write more, that's fine. I just wanted to give you a sense of the scale that I'm looking for. This doesn't have to be a long paper. So I've modeled it on a 5-paragraph essay. That's what I talked about last time, I think, with the diagram. Naturally, as I say, if you want the paper to be a bit longer, then that's fine. So then maybe instead of having paragraphs in the middle, maybe you'll have sections that are made up of a couple or 3 paragraphs. Whatever works for you, it's fine. Do the thing that works for you. And here, the point of the exercise is to analyze the material you gathered in your interview and to put it in conversation with an anthropological reading. So I've suggested here that you use the readings from the course, but quite a few of you in your proposals suggested other readings from outside the course. That's fine as well, as long as it is an anthropological reading. And that can mean something written by an anthropologist or something that appears in an anthropological journal. Either one is fine. So maybe an anthropologist contributes something to a book or writes a whole book, or perhaps contributes something to a journal that's not an anthropological journal. That's fine by me. It's written by an anthropologist so that the material you're going to engage with will be from the perspective of an anthropologist. That's fine. Equally, anything that appears in an anthropological journal, it doesn't matter to me if that was written by somebody who is an anthropologist by training or comes from some other discipline. If it's in an anthropological journal, that's good enough for me. Okay, so that's that part. You have to cite your source, of course. Even if you only have one source, and even if you only refer to that source once in your entire paper, you have to include a citation for that mention, and that citation should include a page number. If you're not sure how to cite properly, I've given on the syllabus the link to the Purdue OWL. It explains how to cite properly, and it will explain how to create a list of a page of work cited. Yours might only have one entry. Your list of work cited might only have one entry, but that's fine. You do it according to the way that Purdue OWL explains. And for that, it just doesn't matter to me which model you use from Purdue OWL. They walk you through all kinds of different models, from Chicago style to MLA, to virtually every academic style of citation. I don't care which it is, as long as you follow one so that it's properly put together. That's all that matters to me. Okay, so that is the end of what you get from the syllabus. Now, some things to keep in mind as you're writing. The first thing, probably the most important thing, and I think I'm going to repeat this a couple times in the next couple slides in different ways, is that the paper is by you, but it's not about you. So your opinion is important, but not for this paper, right? You're not writing about your own opinions here. You're writing about what your interviewee has given you in terms of information, insight, perspectives, what have you, right? So that the main source of data that you should be drawing on is not yourself, it's your interviewee. So your job in the paper then, and this is what the job of all anthropologists is, which does not mean that all anthropologists are equally good at doing this, but this is what we should be doing, is to provide a clear, detailed description of how some aspect of the world is for your interviewees. Now, let me pause on that, the some aspect of the world thing. We've seen in, say, in the film Nanook of the North, or in the readings that we had from Malinowski. Those are people who go out to do anthropological work, either to write in Malinowski's case or to produce a film in Flaherty's case, of what you could think of as a whole way of life, right? Flaherty is trying to get the whole way that Inuit people live through the figure of Nanook. Malinowski is trying to get the whole way of life for the Trobriand Islanders. That is not what I'm asking you to do for this paper, of course. Those are enormous projects. Yours is a very, very small project. And in fact, now most anthropologists don't try and get that sense of a whole way of life. They tend to focus on a particular aspect of life. So this is the kind of thing that I'm asking you to do as well. So in my case, for my research, I was focusing on the way that human rights made their appearance in Thailand at a certain moment, right? So there are other things that involves beyond just human rights. It involves religion, it involves political movements. It involves, believe it or not, ideas of motherhood. You have to read the book for that to make sense, but trust me, it's there. So it drags these other things into it, but it's focused on one particular thing. This is what I'm asking you to do as well. And indeed, in your proposals, and for the most part in your proposals, and so far in your interviews, that's what you've done, right? You've picked one particular thing that your interviewee is well positioned to talk about, and you focused on how that thing appears in someone's life, right? How it is an element of that person's social existence. This is the thing that you have to prioritize then. What has significance for your interviewee, not what has significance for you. It's all about your interviewee and what your interviewee supplies you with. Okay, moving on. In that way, you give an account of what your interview has taught you. And even if you go into your interview thinking, I'm talking to somebody about something I'm already familiar with, the point is not to showcase your familiarity, but to present what your interviewee has told you, almost as if you don't know anything about this practice beside what your interviewee has told you. So that's the main thing. What has your interview taught you? But there's something else. This comes back to the idea of concepts, right? So that, as I was saying, anytime that we want to talk about things, if we want to talk about religion, religion is a concept, right? It's not something that has this kind of natural existence. It's something that is conceptual in nature. And when we talk about religion, we're already employing concepts. And so one of the things you have to do in your paper then is take note of how you are drawing on concepts that have a life in other scholarship already. Some of the readings that we've gone through, or some of the other anthropological readings that some of you have picked up outside the course, either way. And so these concepts help you make sense of what your interviewee has shown you, or possibly your interview has helped you gain a deeper sense and maybe a more nuanced sense, maybe a more complicated sense, maybe even a contradictory sense, which would be interesting, of that concept. And so then the contribution that you make to the scholarship is to make the concept more precise to fit with what your interview material has given you, or to expand the concept in some new direction, because that is what your interview material has allowed you to do. Either way, you're engaging not just with your interviewee, but you're also engaging with existing scholarship. And so you have these two kinds of resources that you're drawing on. As I say, though, make sure that your material, your scholarly material, are anthropological in nature, right? So I don't want you to draw essays from a psychology journal written by psychologists for psychologists. Those are perfectly good articles, but not for this course and not for this project. Same goes for other journals and other academics that work in other fields. It has to be anthropological in nature. And so on the whole, if you're looking for journals, if they have the word anthropology in the title of the journal, you're in good shape. You're going to be fine. And so a way that you can think of this is the interest for an anthropologist is not, so to speak, what goes on in an individual's mind, but how the things that go on in an individual's minds are socially shaped, right? How social forces work on that. And so that social force, that's the stuff that we want to understand. We want to understand the idea of people being connected socially. Okay, moving on. Now, as I said at the beginning, the essay I'm asking you to write is a short essay. I'm not asking you to go on to write a huge, big essay. And because the scale of this course, this is not a gigantic course, right? This is a 1 semester, 100 level course. So the essay should be geared to that level of course. But if you have more to say than the 700 to 900 words that I've suggested, say more. That is fine. I'm happy to hear more if you have more that you want to discuss. If the nature of the interview that you had was so compelling to you and so interesting that you can't stop at 900 words, then keep going. That's no problem. But on the other hand, if you found that you've only written 1 page, you have more work to do. Now, above all, remember that your job is to convey what your interview has revealed to you. So you're responsible first and foremost to your interviewee. So try to imagine, let's say, Michael, I see your hand. I'm almost done, so I'll get to you in just a second. Let's say you were to give your paper to your interviewee. What you want is that when your interviewee reads your paper, that person can recognize what you're writing about as having come from him or her, right? And so I'm not suggesting that you have to do this, but you have to be responsible to your interviewee. If you were to give, so to take a concrete example, after I finished my book, I sent it to the people who were most important to me in Thailand during my field work. And if they had received it and thought, this is completely unrecognizable, I've got no idea what you're talking about, this is not what life looks like here, this is not the place that human rights have in Thailand, then I would have failed as an anthropologist. There would be a real problem there. And so it's the same kind of thing that I'm asking for you to do. Imagine that as you write the paper, you're giving it to your interviewee to proofread. You want your interviewee to recognize themselves in your paper, right? So this is again why it's important that it not be all about your opinion, that it be about what your interviewee has revealed to you. All right. So that's the end of that. Now, Michael, I saw your hand go up. So this is where I was going to turn to questions anyway. So what question did you have?
Yes, I'm sorry. I just have, when is this due?
On the
Because
20th.
I saw the 21st. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you so much, Professor.
No problem. All right. What other questions do you have? What are the things that are on your mind about the final paper?
I'm
Or about
curious.
any, yeah, go ahead.
You said that you want us to use at least one anthropological source, correct?
Yes.
Do you have any like websites that are like anthropological journals that I could look up for my top, like let's say for everybody's topic?
Yeah. So the best place, in my opinion, to go is Google Scholar. And then in the search field, just make sure the word anthropology is in the search field, and it won't mean that all of the hits that you get are anthropological, but it will mean that far more of them are. So it will be a lot easier to find. But let me add to that. If you have questions about where you should look for your particular project, and you just haven't been able to find things, email me. I'm happy to try and help you out. That's not just for Tyler. That's for anyone.
Would you say, I guess also for I guess sources for the essay, would you kind of like reference it as, let's say, 50% of it should be, I guess, info from your interview, and 30%, let's say, be from the articles, and 20% be your own input? Would you frame it like that almost?
Oh, that's interesting. That's a very good question. The question that you just asked, I'm sure that is a question that is on a lot of other people's minds. So I'm glad that you asked it. Um, the proportions are going to be largely up to you, but by far the most weight should be put on the interview itself. So if the proportions were more like 70% talking about the interview, 10% talking about the academic sources, and 20% talking about your own interpretations of the two, that would also be, I think, a very good ratio. And I think that if you wind up talking mostly about the sources and not much about the interview, then you've run into trouble, right? That's when you need to go back and think, okay, what am I really talking about here? And if the answer is the scholarly sources, then that's not the paper that I'm asking you to write. So then you should go back and think, okay, how can I talk more about my interview?
Okay.
Is that a good answer to your question?
Yeah, so I guess how I'm interpreting it now is kind of like, focus on the interview and use the sources almost as a backbone for the interview.
Perfect. That's exactly the way that you should put it. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So this is the way that this is an entirely different kind of project than what you're going to do for most of your sociology, anthropology courses. For those, you're going to talk almost entirely about, at least when you have essays to do instead of tests, you're going to talk almost entirely about other sources, right? So that you're going to be comparing sources to one another. You're going to be maybe doing book reviews to talk about what a book has to say, things like that. And in fact, that's for my anthropology of human rights course. That's what you wind up doing. We read a bunch of things through the semester. We read a book at the end of the semester, and then I ask you to do a review of the book. So your entire course then is geared around talking about what other writers have to say. This project is completely different because here I'm asking you to talk about what you have learned firsthand from your interviews and write about that, prioritize that. What other questions have you got for me? Let me ask as a placeholder while you think, is there anyone here who has not gotten back a graded paper for your first assignment, the proposal? You don't have to respond to me out loud right now, but if you haven't, you should email me because that means that I didn't receive it. Some of you might have sent me a revised proposal to get regraded. That's a different thing. But if you never received one from me in the first place, then that's a problem. That means something has gone awry. Equally, if you sent me your interview notes and you didn't get a response from me, probably I just wrote back and said thanks. That also is something you should let me know because it may mean either that your email went astray in some way or that I didn't get it. But in either case, it will mean that I don't have your interview notes. And so I've got nothing to grade and I've got no way of giving you a grade for that. So if either of those is the case, shoot me an email and that way we can get it cleared up and you're not left hanging without a grade. Okay, what tone should the paper be? What tense should we write in? Oh, that's an interesting question too. Okay, so it is an essay, right? So that it's a formal piece of writing. So it should not be written in a casual way, right? You're not sending me an email. Yes, Michael, I did. Thank you for asking though. So
Michael.
sorry, Jana, did you let me finish answering this question, then I'll get back
Why
to
does
the
my name look like the word secret to me? Really? No, you're not. Look, that's the sign for you to think of the form going.
Gianna, I can't tell if you're having a conversation with me or with someone else.
I didn't even open it.
I think someone else. I'm going to mute her. Okay. So the tone should be formal, right? This is a formal piece of writing. You're writing an essay, and so it should all be full sentences and full paragraphs. There shouldn't be anything that sounds like, as I say, like you're sending sort of informal correspondence in an email or text message or anything like that. And it should be structured like a proper essay too. I went through that a bit last week so that it should have an introduction. It should have a body that explores the main themes that you want to get across, and a conclusion, and then the list of works cited. Now, the second part, what tense should it be in? Well, probably the easiest tense to write it in is in the past tense, because the interview is something that has already happened, right? So that you are giving me an account of something that happened in the past. But if you want to write it in the present tense, then if that's just what makes sense to you, if you want to say, I asked my interviewee, blah, 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 my interviewee tells me, blah, blah, blah. If that is the thing that works for you and that allows you to convey what's going on with your interviewee the best, then that's fine. Do the thing that does the best job of conveying what your interviewee is communicating to you. As I say, I think on the whole, the past tense will probably be the most sensible and the easiest to work with for most of you. Okay, so is that an adequate answer to your question, or does that leave anything unclear? Excellent. Okay. So
Professor?
the quick answer is that there aren't old examples of what other students have done in the past, because I've never taught this course before. This is new for me, so I don't have a past body of students' work to draw on to give you to look at. Sorry about that. Okay, so someone else was asking me something though. Who was that?
It's me, Professor.
Okay, go
So
ahead.
I received the grade for my proposal. So instead of redoing it, I did the interview report and I submitted it. I changed the initial proposal. So do you want me to resubmit the proposal? I wasn't sure about.
Oh, sure,
But I
sure.
changed the interview.
Yeah,
And I already emailed you the interview report.
yeah, okay. And I responded to that, right? I sent you back an email acknowledging that I got it.
Yes, yes. But
Okay,
the
okay.
thing is, Prophet, I didn't change that. I changed my initial proposal based on your comments, but I never resubmitted the updated proposal. Do I have to do that?
You
Because I
do not.
already submitted.
No, you don't have to do that. You are
Oh.
allowed to do it, but you're not obligated to do it. And so this is something else that I should make clear. So I'm glad that you raised this. If the proposal said that you were going to do one kind of a project, but then you did the interview and you started to think differently about what you're going to write, that's fine. You're not committed to doing exactly what the proposal laid out, because this is the nature of research, right? That you think you have an idea of what you want to do, and then you go and start researching it, and then you learn things that you hadn't expected to learn, that you didn't even know that you didn't know, and that changes how you're thinking about the thing, so that the project you wind up doing doesn't look exactly like the proposal that you laid out. That's fine. As I say, that's the nature of doing first-person research. You discover things and you follow those things, and you wind up writing about something that is not identical with your proposal. That's okay. Now, it should have some relationship to your proposal. I should be able to see how you got from the place where you started to the place where you wound up. So to take an example that I'm making this example up out of thin air, which means it might not be all that great an example. But anyway, here we go. So let's say I start off thinking I want to do a project on Buddhist marriage rituals, right? And so I come up with a research question about Buddhist marriage rituals and carry some. I develop the proposal. I figure out who I want to talk to, and then I turn in a paper that has to do with running an automobile business. Like, I can't see how you get from the one to the other, right? That seems like the two are completely disconnected. And so that would be weird. I should be able to see, like, so maybe I start off with something like Buddhist marriage rituals, and I wind up with something that looks like the role of Buddhist meditation in people's lives. Okay, I can see how I get from the one to the other from there. So in other words, the proposal and the final project don't need to be the same thing, but they should be at least recognizable from one to the other. Does that make sense?
Yes, Professor. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, what other questions have you got? So, to go back to Jonas's question, I think,
Sorry, Professor.
go ahead.
One more question. So that won't affect the grades, right? Because
That's right. That's right.
thank you.
Jonas's question. If you want to, like, if you're looking for a model, right? You're thinking, I'm not sure what this paper should look like. Well, probably the best thing to do is look at an anthropological essay. Look at something that an anthropologist has written. Now, you're not doing something on the same scale as what you'll find in an anthropological journal, but at least there you'll be able to see how an anthropologist draws on the research that anthropologist has done, the field work, and how that field work plays a role in constructing the overall description and observations and thesis that the anthropologist generates. And you'll be able to see how that anthropologist draws on the scholarship produced by other anthropologists. So you'll be able to see then the kind of balance of citation of other anthropologists and the attention given to other work compared to the attention given to the field research. That's what I would suggest then. If you're trying to figure out what an anthropological essay should look like, you don't need to read it closely. Just take a quick look at it, at an anthropology essay, and work through that. So you could, for example, go back to that piece that we read, the short essay called the what was it, body techniques of the Nasamrima or something like that, by Miner, right? So it's a satirical piece, right? He's writing to show how it is that anthropologists can make familiar things seem exotic and weird. And so he's doing that kind of as a warning to get other anthropologists to appreciate how it is that we can make completely familiar things seem completely unfamiliar, just if we're not careful with the way that we write. So that's what he's doing. But on the other hand, he's doing it in a way that looks very anthropological, right? He's relying almost entirely on his field research, right? So, okay, he doesn't exactly have field research, but he's devoting his attention to the practices of this people that he claims to have discovered. And he cites other anthropologists a little bit, but he doesn't really rely heavily on it, right? So as Tyler was saying, that provides some of the conceptual backbone for the paper, but on the whole, he really devotes his attention to describing these practices among the Nasamrima. So you could also look back at that as an example, that, as I say, it's satirical in nature, but the reason that it works as satire is because it so closely follows the way that anthropological papers are often written. Or you can look at more contemporary work that is done sincerely rather than satirically, and it should do the same work for you. What other questions have you got? Yes, it is. This is our last class. I know it's going to be hard for you to figure out how to spend your Tuesday evenings from now on. Oh, yeah. So if you want to talk about some part of your work as you're getting close to finishing it, email me and we can set up a time to meet by Zoom, or if you want to just converse by email, that's also fine. And I can do whatever I can do to help you out with the thing that is causing you trouble. If you do that, though, I want you to keep one thing in mind. You only have a week until it's due. So if you want to get advice or feedback or something from me, make sure that you get in touch with me far enough ahead before the due date so that you'll have time to incorporate the feedback that I give you, right? So setting up a meeting with me on the afternoon of the 20th that's a bad idea, right? Because if I've got advice that's going to cause you to do massive rewriting, then it's going to be hard for you to use that advice in time to get the paper in. So give yourselves enough time, and at least give it a few days before. That makes me think I should also say a word about late papers. So the window that I have between the due date for the paper and when I need to get grades in is pretty small. And I've got a lot of papers here, right? You wouldn't know it from the number of you who showed up today. Thank you all for showing up today. But there are 50 people in this class. And so that's a lot of grading just for this class. Never mind the other grading that I need to do. So I've got a lot of work to do in a week. And that means that I really just don't have much flexibility to give you extensions on papers if you need more time. So so just be mindful of that. If you come to me at the last minute asking for an extension, there's no guarantee that you're going to be able to get one because I just might not have enough time to give extensions and get the grading done in time. So I'm not saying that to be a buzzkill. I'm just saying that so that you know that I'm not in a, it's not that I don't want to give you extensions. It's that I don't have the time available to me either. I have to get things in. Are there other things you want to talk about? Well then, should I release you early for this last class that we have? Oh yeah, so the interviews, I'm grading them. I've been grading them today. I'll continue to. I don't know exactly how long it will take me to get through them, because they range in length from the longest I've had so far is 6 pages. The shortest is 2. So you can appreciate that. That gives me like close to 200 pages of grading that I need to do. So I'm getting through them as quickly as I can because I want you to have them back in time to be able to use the feedback that I give you on the interviews if you need to change something in your paper. So I am working as fast as I can on them, but it's going to be another couple days. All right. Well, you're welcome, Michael. And again, thank you for showing up. You hardy few who came for the final class. I appreciate it. And best of luck with the writing of your paper and with your other courses. If you want to get a hold of me between now and the time that the papers due, don't hesitate. I'm happy to, as I say, either correspond through email, or if you want to set up a Zoom meeting, to set up a Zoom meeting. And that's it. So good luck with the rest of with the end of the semester, and have a lovely summer.
Thank you. Have a good summer as well.
Thank you, you
Thank
too.
you very much.
Professor.
Thank you, Nicholas. I appreciate that. Thank you, Tyler. Yes, you too.
I'm sorry.
Thank
Can
you
I ask
for
a question?
everything.
Oh, whoa! I got 2 of you at once. Okay, Dorian, go ahead.
What's like the overall like point of the research, like this final paper? Like, what do we? I don't understand like the gist of it.
So so think back to your proposal, right? So in your proposal, the idea was, I've got a question. I don't know what the answer is. So I'm going to go and interview somebody who is in a good position to give me insight into my question. And through that, I'll be able to answer my question. Your paper then is your explanation of the answer to your question as you have learned about it from your interviewee. Does that make sense to you?
Okay, yeah, I got it now. Also, in the interview, we weren't supposed to put our own opinions, right?
Right. That it's all about what your interviewee has to say. It's all about what your interviewee thinks and how your interviewee sees the world. That's what it's all about. And that's what the final paper should be about as well, right? Like the paper, the way that I put it at the beginning of the class, the paper is by you, but it's not about you. It's about what your interviewee has shown you.
In the interview, in the last sentence, I said what I personally believed. Is that like minus points or no?
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay, thank you. Have a good summer.
Okay, thanks. You too. Did someone else have a question?
No, I'm sorry, Professor. I just want to say thank you and I appreciate for everything you've done for me this semester.
Oh, you're so welcome. It was a delight. I look forward to getting your paper.
Thank you so much. Have a great summer.
Okay, thank you. You too.